Okay, I'm going to show you how to make the final parts of your caddy, the two sort of sides that hold it all together and also hold on the handle. So we need to create a little bit more space in our on our worktop, so we're going to go to Setup, Drawing, Layout and change that to A3 and then Landscape. So that's created loads of space for us, and actually we only end up taking up half of this. So if you remember, you're only getting 1.5 sheets of your recycled plastic. Now I'm still on gridlock and I'm still just double checking that my grid spacing is 5mm. So to start off, what we're going to do is we're just going to draw a rectangle. You can do this anywhere in your blank workspace, but we just need to make sure that it is 100 by 100, and remember you can see that as you're drawing it in this rel box at the bottom. Alright, and then what we need to do is I'm just going to eyeball this. I'm going to draw myself a construction line down the middle both ways, and what I'll do just to double check that I've got that right, is draw myself some construction lines, some dimension lines. Great. So we need to add in some joints first of all, so that this connects to the ones that we've drawn in already. So the bottom ones are probably the most straightforward. So again, we're going to go to our rectangle tool, and in the bottom two squares we're going to draw rectangles like so. So there's 10mm gap there, 10mm gap there. Then we can use our part delete tool just to tidy up as we go, like so. Alright, and then what we need to do is we need to draw our other ones. So these, if we just double check our measurements, are 15, and our gap here was 20. Like so what we could do, in fact, is we could copy what we've already drawn, line it up with our central line. There's obviously a few bits that we are going to want to get rid of there, but what that does is it basically means that it's going to line up with exactly what we've drawn. And again, just going to tidy that bit up. Right, so we've literally lifted that joint there from there, and we'll 10mm up this time, and that's just so it doesn't interfere with these sort of comb joints that we've got on the end. This joint is kind of like a little mortise and tenon joint, so we need that slightly raised up so that we've got that security there. So now it's time to start thinking about adding our hole for the handle. So for this, you're going to go to the second button down when you hold down the circle, and that is where you can suggest a radius that you would like. Now I've already preset this on my screen to be 12.5mm. You can just, whatever yours says, highlight it and overwrite it there like so. And then, you know, again, making sure you're lining it up on the central line. You're looking for sort of a nice gap between the top. Oh, I've got it on attach by accident. Just 2 seconds. Okay, so I had my thing on attach there, which we'll come to later. So I'll just do that quickly again. So 12.5 lined up on the central line, like so. Now this is probably the first time that you'll be, you know, sort of off of gridlock, and that's okay, because this is, you know, this is kind of a really good spacing for your handle, so that's absolutely fine. And obviously our radius is not a multiple of 5. Sorry, our diameter isn't, so that's why we have to go slightly off. So there's a couple of ways that you can go about profiling the shape that sort of this takes, to make it personalised and elegant. So I'll show you a couple of things that you can do and then you can choose. So to keep the sort of traditional sort of caddy type shape, you could just draw freehand circles, so we've got that across the top. And then I guess the simplest way to do this, if we take it off gridlock now, is to then sort of have a line there and another one there. And if I just delete everything that we now don't need, you can see that that's kind of like the very basic profile, like what our example is that you've already seen. Make sure that you avoid sort of interfering with this part of the joint here, because we need this little bit of overhang, this sort of 5mm bit here, just to ensure that we've got a nice secure joint. So if you want to do something a little bit more fancy, you can use the path tool. So again, just try and line up the sort of cross with the line. It'll sort of go white and you'll see that it's intersecting. And this time, every time I click, it's basically holding its position. And if I want to end it, I just right click. Oops. Okay, so I like this more fancy one a lot more than my original one, so I will just show you how we can basically replicate this really quite easily. So you just use your select tool, draw a box around it and make sure all the information that you're going to want to copy over is pink. Then you press copy and flip, and that basically flips it around nicely for you. You could at this point put it back on gridlock and on the attach tool, and then it will definitely sort of match up with where you want it to go, or not, as the case may be. So you might actually want to keep it off of it at this point. And then what should happen is this all meets very nicely, so this isn't quite connected up, so I can just zoom in and I can just sort of do some overlapping here to fix that, and then I can get rid of those central lines that I no longer need to help me line everything up. And then finally, when you're happy with what you've designed, you select the whole thing, change the line colour to red, and then copy it. And you kind of want to stack them. Oops. One on top of the other. Get rid of all of these. And just make sure that you're really happy with what you've produced, and then hit save. I would recommend saving all the way through, as always, just in case, because TextSoft can be a little bit grumpy. But now we're at the point where you'd be ready to do a laser cut card model of your caddy to check everything that fits together.